Welcome to the Real News Network, coming to you from San Francisco. We're at the Momentum Conference of the Tides Foundation. Joining us now is Roger Hickey. He's the co-founder of the Campaign for America's Future. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Again.
Yep.
All right, so we've had a lot of talks over the last few months, and it's kind of leading up to a new culmination point. President Obama is going to speak to Congress, and one hopes finally lay out his vision for health care, because it's been not so clear exactly what he wanted. So what would you like him to say, and then I'll ask you, what do you think he's going to say?
Well, I'd like the president to make it very clear that he's shifting gears, that he's becoming hands-on now. He spent a lot of time letting the Congress develop legislation that meets his rough, broad outline of principles. And actually, despite all the publicity, he has done quite well in terms of getting legislation passed the 3 committees in the House and 1 in the Senate. I'm hoping that he'll come out and signal that the days of waiting for the Republicans to give him a bipartisan deal are over. Lord knows he's been very patient. He and Senator Baucus have tried and tried in the Senate Finance Committee. So signaling that waiting for the Republicans is over, and it's time for the president and Democrats in the Congress to really move a health care agenda. I want him to talk about how dysfunctional the U.S. Health care system is, not just for the people who don't have health insurance, but the people who have managed to keep their health insurance from their employers or buy it themselves, and explain that part of the problem is simply the nature of the private insurance industry itself. And that's one of the reasons why we need to regulate the insurance industry in a mixed system, and why we need a public option, a public company to provide health insurance to those who want it, a choice, an option.
The general feeling is that Congress will pass the bill that's essentially been agreed on the House that has a public option, and many members of the House have even said they won't vote for something that doesn't have a public option. But obviously the Senate's the roadblock, and such a roadblock that the drumbeat is that they may give up on the public option and go to what's called a trigger. So can you tell us what this trigger thing is, and what do you think of it?
Well, first of all, it's important to understand that the United States Senate has 60 Democrats in it, or will have when Senator Kennedy is replaced. So the problem of overcoming filibusters, the problem of the undemocratic nature of the U.S. Senate, could be solved if the Democrats actually work together as a team. The problem is that some Democrats are quite conservative and are reluctant to go all the way with the kind of legislation that will pass the House. I think that the president could do a lot of knocking heads, of persuasion, arm twisting, of getting senators to understand that it's important to pass something good that they can live with in the future. But one of the sticking points is this public option, and it appears that the president is trying to win at least one Republican member of the Senate, and therefore hoping to get other conservative Dems to feel better about passing the bill. I think he can do it, and I think he can do it with a strong public option in there. In fact, I've written that we already have the Senate Kennedy Help Bill, the Help Committee bill, which has a public option, and many of the senators who have been waiting for something to happen all this time, many of these senators are very eager to change gears, to go into a new chapter in the U.S. Senate, and people like Rockefeller and Sherrod Brown of Ohio will be speaking out as the new Congress comes back.
There seems to be two schools here. of thought within the Democratic Party. One is what John Conyers called the ROM factor, which is the pass anything school, because if we don't pass something, it's going to look like a defeat, strategically weaken the presidency. So negotiate anything you can negotiate so you got something to sign, and one way or the other you dress it up and you call it a victory. The other school is saying, use your political capital, you campaign for this thing, you said it's change we can believe in, come out bloody swinging, put your presidency on the line, which means you can say to these blue dog Democrats that if this presidency is strategically weakened, then so are you. What Obama do you think we're likely to see here?
Well, I think in the speech on Wednesday, we're going to see a president that's trying to be an activist president. I think he knows that he's got to do that, or at least he's got to appear to be doing that. And so I think that, I hope that he'll talk about how we got into this mess and why it's important to have a strong bill. One that doesn't, for example, mandate people to buy insurance, but not give them an affordable alternative to buy.
Which means a public option.
Public option. One that really puts the insurance companies under a microscope and forces them to perform with affordable products of their own.
So tell us about this trigger thing, because we're hearing a lot that there's negotiations going on, and there may be a deal which is based on a public option in some future date if some trigger is pulled. I mean, if we get there Wednesday night, is this something that can be dressed up and called a victory for healthcare reform or not?
My prediction is, even if that's where we're going, we won't get there Wednesday night. That would be incredibly controversial of the president to do that in a speech to the Congress. There are 60 members of the House of Representatives who have pledged that they will not vote for a bill that doesn't contain a strong public option.
And they're going to stick to their guns?
Well, who knows? Who knows? I mean, part of this is kabuki theater. Part of this is the liberals signaling what they want, and the president would be crazy to go on national television and slap them. The deals that get cut are in the back rooms, and they are in private meetings. So if he wants to erode that, he has. You're absolutely right. He has two choices. He can choose to pull back and do something that's more acceptable to a larger number of senators, or he can do like Lyndon Johnson. He can become a leader and actually ask the Congress to rise to the occasion and produce a bill that will actually do the job. And I'm hoping that that's what he will do.
To be that leader, doesn't he have to do what he said in the campaign, which is actually lead a movement and get out of this beltway? Like, there's only one person in this country that could ask 5, 10 million people to show up in front of Congress and say, we want real health care reform. But he seems so locked within beltway politics.
Well, there is a movement for health care in America. It's part of it is run by the 1,000 organizations in healthcare for America now.
So you're going to get 10 million people in the streets saying we want real health care reform?
We just put a lot of those kind of people in the streets in the congressional districts and the home offices of those senators who are coming back to Washington. We did a decentralized march on Washington, telling them to go back to D.C. and get the job done. And we've just done that over the last month. Whether there's a march on Washington, we're talking about that in October. SEIU and others are taking the lead. And clearly, the coalition that we represent, the forces in society that we represent, are communicating heavily to the president. We've just delivered thousands and thousands of names on a petition to the President of the United States in the last couple of days, telling him to stand firm, do a tough bill, public option.
Do you think there's going to be a mass rally in D.C. sometime?
It's too early to say, but there are people talking about a mass rally in October.
I have to ask you this. The single-payer people are saying, even people, that if there'd been the focus on single-payer as the push, then the compromise would have been the public option. But because you know this argument, if public option was the starting point, now the compromise might be a trigger. Any second thoughts about the strategy?
No, I'm glad that the single-payer movement is out there. There's a group that is smaller than 60 in the House who are supporters of the public option. Rather, they are supporters of single-payer, and they have and should have been vocal in this last period. In order to build a broad movement that included lots of different groups and lots of different forces, we had to be realistic with ourselves. We didn't think that there was a chance of passing single payer, and therefore it would have been harder to build a huge outside force for single payer. And frankly, somebody like me who's been around Washington doesn't think it could have passed, and it's hard to argue for something that you don't think that could pass.
Is there a litmus test for you where this bill isn't acceptable? Is there where it doesn't meet enough of what you think are the core principles that even if this strategically weakens the presidency, that you'll say no to?
I just wrote a piece in the Huffington Post today that said the president and all the progressives have got to make sure that if you're requiring people to buy health insurance, it's not like Canada where you tax people and then provide them free health insurance. You're actually requiring people to buy health insurance, then you damn well better make sure that it's affordable health insurance that you're offering them. So I want to make sure that the bill that we pass does not force people to buy insurance from only private insurance companies that is unaffordable by the average family.
So then you're saying the public option is absolutely core. That if the bill doesn't have a public option, you can't support it.
That's right, and any trigger that would be put in place would have to be triggered by this affordability question. If the private insurance companies cannot provide what they call an insurance product, a good healthcare plan at an affordable cost, that should be the trigger, and it should be a very, very clear trigger. So affordability is the key. If it's affordable, then Obama and the Democrats will be heroes. If they pass something that forces people to buy insurance that is unaffordable, there will be a populist revolt.
But affordable means public option to you. It doesn't mean somehow you're going to make insurance companies, because I mean another way, because you could make it affordable by just subsidizing the insurance companies essentially.
Or you could regulate the insurance companies. In Switzerland,
regulate what they can charge.
They are practically public utilities in Switzerland. I'm not saying that there's only one way to do it, but you're talking to one of the chief advocates of the public insurance plan, and we are working very closely to build the number of senators and members of the Congress who are going to vote for a public health insurance plan.
Okay, well, after Wednesday, we'll talk again.
All right, good.
And we'll hopefully still be talking about a public option.
I hope so.
And I said hopefully. I'm a journalist, but I'm hopeful. Thanks for joining us on the Real News Network.